God bless America. Hello, everybody. The Talk Radio Protege is back with another video on the Jimmy Kimmel gun control rant from a couple nights ago, because I realized that there were a couple of things that I neglected to talk about. The first is Mr. Kimmel's statements on AK-47s and M16s. He makes a couple of just kind of throwaway statements about these guns, and I was watching Steven Crowder's video rebutting this rant from Jimmy Kimmel and realized that I'm probably the only human in America that's saying, yes, Americans should be allowed to own M16s and AK-47s if they want. So when Jimmy Kimmel says, blah, 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 AK-47, blah, 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 M16, blah, 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 automatic weapons, he's bringing up a straw man that I might be the only person that's actually arguing in favor of. So I just wanted to point that out. There are no mainstream Republican, conservative, right-wing voices that are advocating for American ownership of fully automatic weapons. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was the silencers. Kimmel mentioned that Republicans in the House are trying to pass a bill that would make it easier to obtain a silencer. And when Jimmy Kimmel says silencer, he means James Bond level, whisper quiet, makes your firearm impossible to detect silencer, which is the opposite of the truth. But I wanted to start talking about the silencers by talking about why it's important, why certain gun owners want to be able to purchase a silencer. I should stop saying silencer. It's a suppressor. It doesn't actually silence a firearm. It just suppresses the noise. And the reason that firearm owners want to purchase suppressors is because of something called noise-induced hearing loss. And noise-induced hearing loss happens when your ear is exposed to a sound that is too loud. Even for short periods of time, this can happen. If you've ever fired or discharged, I'll use the surgical term, if you've ever discharged a firearm without hearing protection, you know how dangerous those sounds are. Here's the paragraph that I want to focus on. Sounds of less than 75 decibels, even after long exposure, are unlikely to cause hearing loss. However, longer repeated exposure to sounds at or above 85 decibels can cause hearing loss. The louder the sound, the shorter amount of time it takes for noise-induced hearing loss to happen. And then they show you the decibel ratings of some familiar sounds. Refrigerator 45 decibels, conversation 60 decibels, heavy traffic 85 decibels. Now, I don't think I've ever heard the kind of heavy traffic that this article talks about. I've sat in rush hour traffic before in some cities, but I don't think it's ever been 85 decibels heavy traffic. Motorcycles 95 decibels. I'm sure all of you have heard a motorcycle rev, and you know how loud that can be. MP3 player at maximum volume. If you've ever wanted to blow your eardrums out, or blow the eardrums of your friends out, you turn their iPod volume up all the way and then hand it to them and say, here, listen to this song. And then they press play and instantly flip out. Sirens, the kind of sirens that I assume they're talking about, ambulance sirens, 120 decibels, and then firecrackers and firearms, 150 decibels. Your distance from the source of the sound and the length of the time you're exposed to the sound are also important factors in protecting your hearing, which is why the big, loud firecrackers go way, way up into the air, and why you're supposed to throw firecrackers away from you after you light them. So if a firearm is at 150 decibels, then obviously it's dangerous to listen to with the naked ear. So why would a person want to purchase, wrong button, a suppressor? Well, the Washington Compost actually did a story about it, where they asked the question, are firearms with a silencer quiet? And they focused around a couple of tweets, and I want to pause for a second to show you this one. You know what protects your hearing better than a silencer? Earplugs. Okay, maybe this is true. I don't know what the actual decibel reductions are on silencers and earplugs, but I would think that a silencer, which in this these people's imaginations completely eliminates the sound of a firearm would protect your ear better, or protect your hearing rather, better than a earplug, because an earplug doesn't totally eliminate the sound. And then he says this, fact, silencers do not protect your hearing. What? Are you kidding me? If a silencer does eliminate a sound that does damage your hearing, then by definition it protects your hearing. Are you kidding me, ARS? It's just a lie. It's just totally inaccurate. Now, what I really wanted to focus on from this story are a couple of paragraphs down here. They give you the decibel protection ratings according to the EPA's noise reduction rating. And from the way they treat the noise reduction rating later in the story, they just directly convert it to decibels. So I'm just going to do that now. Earplugs from 22 to 33 decibels. Ear muffs from 22 to 31 decibels, which is strange to me. I've always thought that ear muffs protect your ears better than plugs. And suppressors also in the 30 decibel range, although some may go higher. They point out that earplugs probably do not protect your ears at the 30 decibel range because the tests are done in a laboratory setting, and then in the real world, people don't get the perfect earplug fit on your ear. And then they go down here and they talk about the decibel levels of some firearms. 30 decibel reduction in theory means an AR-15 rifle would have a noise equivalent of 32 decibels. That is the equivalent of a gunshot. Remember that NIHL said that firearms are around 150. So 132, that's roughly 10% away from 150. Or a jackhammer. 22 caliber pistol would be 116 decibels, which is louder than a 100-watt car stereo. I assume that means turned all the way up. So even if you had a suppressor, you still need additional hearing protection to make it hearing safe to hear the sound of a firearm. You would actually need, for an AR-15, a perfectly fitted earplugs, ear muffs, and a suppressor to make it safe to hear an AR-15 firearm round. Now, Mark Brummer, a suppressor control advocate, says that we're talking about using suppressors in the city because in the wilderness, it's not only helpful to have a suppressor because hunters usually don't wear hearing protection. I'm a hunter. I don't wear hearing protection. You can't hear anything when you have earmuffs on over your ears and you're trying to hunt. But they say, well, in the city, we don't want suppressors to be available because, people can't hear the gunshots over other noisy things. Well, as we saw just now, an AR-15 rifle with a 30 decibel reduction, thanks to a silencer, would have a noise equivalent of 132 decibels. That's still louder than a siren. You should still be able to hear that over a siren. And this is even more ludicrous when you consider that you get used to noises that you hear on a regular basis. So when you're in a city, you get used to hearing the heavy traffic, you get used to hearing maybe even jackhammers. If you're near a construction area, you get used to hearing those kinds of things. You don't ever get used to hearing a gunshot. The only time you get used to hearing gunshots is when you're in a combat situation. I'm about to run out of time, so I better speed this up. Living in a city, people don't just shoot guns all the time. I guess if you live in Chicago, you might be used to hearing gunshots. But in the vast majority of cities, if you hear a gunshot, it has its own distinct sound. It's that pow, pow. The sound of a gunshot, I don't know how else to say it, is very distinct from mundane city noise. It's very easy to notice a gunshot. When you're out in the woods, falling leaves are extremely quiet. But when you're out in the woods, it's very quiet, and you get used to hearing, the rumblings that are going on outside. You can hear a leaf falling. I gotta go. My time's running out. Thank you for watching. Come back for the next one. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe. I'll be back later this evening with another video.